What is happening? It's another Thursday night as we get ready for week 3 of the NFL season to begin in just over an hour from now. Patriots versus the Jets is your Thursday night football matchup. We will go over 5 of the top NFL stories heading into week 3. But before we get into that, don't forget to do us a few favors here. If you like the content, give us that thumbs up on the YouTube channel. Try to create engagement, beat that algorithm. Don't forget to give us that like, give us that thumbs up. Don't forget to throw a comment in. And here's an easy comment. What are you drinking tonight? Tonight, I've got a Skyrock Brewery Gino American Light Lager. It's only a 4.7 ABV, but it's a very good beer. Skyrock is in Attleboro, Massachusetts. If you ever buy Attleboro, check it out. So I'll be drinking a Gino American Light Lager from Skyrock Brewery. Shout out to those guys and gals at Skyrock Brewery. Let me know what you're drinking, alcohol or otherwise, in the chat, because that's something else you can do. You can give us that thumbs up watching YouTube. You can throw a comment into the chat as we go along, whether you're watching this live or on demand. Comments and likes help the algorithm, help us grow this community. Subscribe as well. Try to subscribe for us. That also helps us out. Trying to get to 4,000 subscribers to the Nick Cattles channel on YouTube. You can all help us out with that. So let me know what you're drinking. 618 Grizzly Beast Whiskey. All right, 618. So you're on the whiskey tip on a Thursday night. I appreciate it. Maryland T jumps in. Sam Adams cherry wheat tonight. Very interesting. Some cherry wheat. Maryland seems to be a big fan of Sam Adams. So she goes cherry wheat tonight. And you can keep on letting me know what you have to drink tonight. I'll have a sip to Maryland and 618. I appreciate you. And I also see Amy. Amy jumps in. She's drinking a Truly Tequila Soda, lime flavor. So what about that, huh? Terry, she's going non-alcoholic. She's having a Diet Pepsi. Bob going non-alcoholic. He's going water with a lemon. Let's go. So you guys can continue to let me know what you're drinking, why you're drinking it, why you like that certain beverage. We'll try to hit as many comments as possible. If you want a comment or question to show up, don't forget to send a super chat. That also helps us out financially. All right, let's start with the first story. Story number 5, Bryce Young down in Carolina, benched. He's done. Carolina has made the decision to move to Andy Dalton. Now, I found it very interesting that Canales, the head coach down there in Carolina, said during a press conference after making this decision that he made this call. They moved to Andy Dalton from Bryce Young because that gives the team the best chance to win. And what I noticed was Canales did not say that it gave them the best chance to win right now. He said it gives them the best chance to win. That's a pretty declarative statement from the head coach, and that tells me they're not really interested going back to Bryce Young. Feels like Bryce Young is done, at least for this year, maybe even done in Carolina. And it's pretty amazing. Guy was drafted number 1 overall. I don't think, even after the fact that you drafted him number 1 in the 2023 draft, I don't think you can go back to Bryce Young after benching him. He only played 2 weeks. You felt so strongly that this young man can't play the game of football at a high enough level to help you win a game that you decided to bench him after week 2. And Carolina is a team that's really not going anywhere fast, right? I mean, they're not going anywhere fast. A lot of people think Carolina's the worst team in the league with Bryce Young out there. I don't know how much better they are with Andy Dalton. Kevin Roberts, I see you. Marigo Tequila double shot for the game. All righty. Going the double shot for the game. Don't know if you continue to do what you do after that double shot, but double shot at 8:15 might be a little too hard for me on a Thursday, but you never know if I'm feeling froggy. So you're going to bench Bryce Young after 2 weeks. That tells me in his second year, he's probably done in Carolina. The Panthers have had enough of the Bryce Young experience. I don't think you can go back to him. And frankly, Bryce Young does not deserve to continue to play football. He's been bad this year. You could say he was awful. Only 2-week sample size, but he wasn't good last year, and this year he was awful. He was 33rd in adjusted EPA out of 34 quarterbacks. That's from Computer Cowboy on X. 33rd in adjusted EPA out of 34 quarterbacks. He wasn't good enough. Got to jump to a super chat. Marilyn T jumps in. Here's my contribution to the keg party. Let's go, Pats. I appreciate you, Marilyn. As always, thank you. I will drink to that. So much, so much love for the people that send the super chats. You don't have to, but it certainly helps the program, helps me out financially with all of the support that you guys give. So I appreciate that, Marilyn. Thank you so much for the $25 super chat. It goes right directly into the keg party till. So thank you. So some things about Bryce Young. Overwhelmed in the pocket. He looked overwhelmed in the pocket. If you're watching him through the first 2 weeks, he just did not look comfortable at any point. Another thing about Bryce Young, he's unwilling to throw the football down the field. He just did not want to throw the ball down the field, which limits the offense, limits your versatility. And, if you have a young quarterback and he's already kind of looking around trying to figure out what's wrong and he's not really got his wits about him, by week 2 of the season, won't throw downfield, not comfortable in the pocket, and he's not a big guy. He was not throwing a lot to the middle of the field, which makes you wonder because he's a shorter guy, relatively speaking, with NFL quarterbacks. He's a shorter quarterback. Was he just uncomfortable throwing in the middle of the football field? Now, I know what you're going to say, Nick, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's like 5'8". I understand. But Kyler Murray is a completely different athlete than Bryce Young. Kyler Murray has elite athleticism, which helps the size and adequacy when he's out there. Chris Chapman going old school, drinking a Budweiser. Are you going just Budweiser Red? You going Budweiser Red on me, Chris? I appreciate it. I appreciate it if you're going old school. So the size is an issue. Not an elite athlete, which causes the size to be more of an issue. Not comfortable throwing in the middle of the football field consistently. Not comfortable throwing downfield. Totally overwhelmed in the pocket. So Bryce Young just not good enough to keep his job 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That's all they needed. And a couple questions before we get to our next story that I have for Carolina and Carolina Panthers fans. Did Canales, when he was going for this job during the interview process, did he sell David Tepper on the idea that he was going to get the most out of Bryce Young? Because if he did, Canales might already be in trouble. And I know that might sound ridiculous because he's only had the job for a few months. But if you went into the owner's office and you sat down across from Tepper and you said, I can get the most out of Young. I saw the struggles last year. He's much better than that. I will get the most out of Bryce Young. You have not wasted Mr. Tepper, because we all know David Tepper would like to be called Mr. Tepper. You have not wasted that number 1 pick, Mr. Tepper. I am going to get the best out of Bryce Young. And then week 2, that's it. Because if you sold the owner on getting more out of the quarterback, and that quarterback is benched by week 3, that's a big problem. How can the ownership believe in Canales moving forward? The next thing that he says. Interesting stuff, right? Here's another thing, and I'm sorry, Carolina fans, but I got to bring it up. They traded up. The Panthers traded up to draft Young. They traded up to number 1 to draft Bryce Young, and this guy got benched by week 3 of his second season in the NFL. And to make matters worse, they drafted Bryce Young number 1 overall instead of drafting C.J. Stroud. Ugh. And if I'm a Panthers fan, hey, you can make a move at quarterback. You can bench Bryce Young all that you want. But here's the problem. Do you trust the operation? Do you trust ownership? Do you trust the front office? Do you trust your new head coach? Because if you don't trust the operation, and if Tepper is going to continue to meddle, continue to get in the way, you might not get any better anytime soon. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up. Don't forget to throw a comment in. Let me know what you are drinking on this Thursday night. Chris Chapman jumps in with a $19.99 super chat. He's going to join the keg party, and he is going Bud Red. I got to appreciate the Bud Red. I've drank a few Bud Reds in my day, a number of Bud Reds in my day. Not in a while. Gonna be honest with you. But I have had many Bud Reds in my lifetime. It's an old school traditional job by Chris Chapman, and I respect the hell out of that. Thank you, Chris, for the $19.99 super chat, my friend. I appreciate you. Let's jump to another super chat. Ken Gaffney with a $10 super chat. Protein shake, finishing up at the gym. Tito's and soda with lime and wings waiting at home. LFG, keep it up, Nick. Thank you, Ken. And that's a great way to do it, right? Ken got his workout in early before the football game. Finishes up at the gym with the protein shake. Protein shake and bake, baby, right? Working them muscles. And then you get home and you have something to drink. But you go with Tito's and soda with lime, right? Not a ton of calories, not a ton of wasted stuff going on there. So keeping up with the gym. And then he's got the wings. And he just worked out enough to not worry about those wings. So LFG indeed. We'll see if this game tonight is going to be a good one. All right, let's jump to the next story. The Minnesota Vikings are cooking. Are they cooking? Minnesota, next two games they play against the Texans in Minnesota. Not an easy game. Then they play at Green Bay. Jordan Love back on the practice field this week. Interesting to see if he plays. I would not play Jordan Love this weekend if I were the Packers, but I'm not the Packers. Minnesota is 2-0. Now, the first win was against the Giants. Is that even a win? Yes, it counts. I don't know how much it should count, but they beat the Giants. We'll just push that one aside. Then they beat the San Francisco 49ers last week in Minnesota 23-17. Kevin O'Connell has done a fantastic job with that Minnesota program since he took over, and he's off to a great start this season. I mean, you look at Kevin O'Connell, you look at his coaching, his X's and O's, his play calling on the offensive side. He certainly seems, I don't know how many of you have watched Kevin O'Connell deliver a message to his football team in the locker room, but the guy is very impassioned, and he seems to have all sorts of buy-in from that locker room. He knows what he's doing when he delivers to those guys. And so shout out to Kevin O'Connell, who's done tremendous work. Let's not overlook Brian Flores. Brian Flores, he had the Miami years. Didn't go well. Tua threw him under the bus before the season kicked off, right? But he is a very good defensive coach. He's a very smart defensive coordinator, and he has done it. He did it in New England. He did it in Miami a little bit with that defense. Then he helped out Pittsburgh last year. Pittsburgh was good when they were healthy. In Minnesota. Now he's in Minnesota, right? So Flores, he's just a genius when it comes to defensive play calling. He confuses quarterbacks. He confuses the offensive line. He's not afraid to blitz. They blitz a ton. The fourth highest blitz rate in the NFL, the Minnesota Vikings, at over 32%. And that's Flores' calling card. He's been in Minnesota now for 2 years? That's been his calling card. He's been very aggressive in other places. So he's blitzing almost 1/3 of the time. Think about that. Almost 1/3 of dropbacks that the Minnesota defense faces, Flores is sending extra people. He loves blitzing. He loves getting pressure on the quarterback. He's not afraid of sending the house. He does it a lot. So Flores, just his ability to confuse quarterbacks, to confuse and really attack offensive lines with those blitzes, you can't overlook that. But he also has some more talent that they brought in, right? They brought in Van Ginkel. They brought in Greenard. They brought in Stephon Gilmore late in the process. Again, 4th in blitz rate, 10th in pressure rate, 2nd in sack rate, and opposing quarterbacks, they're having a tough time. Minnesota's defense is 9th in the league in EPA per pass. So this defense in Minnesota is no joke. And Flores is absolutely great at calling plays on that side of the ball. And when you have Flores handling your defense and you've got Kevin O'Connell handling your offense, you're in good hands coaching-wise, and Minnesota is seeing that play out. They're seeing it defensively, but they're also seeing it with Sam Darnold. What did he say? Did he say Sam Darnold? Did he just say? Yeah, I said Sam Darnold. The Sam Darnold renaissance. It's happening. It's happening right now. 7:14, Thursday, September 19th, 2024, Eastern Time. The Sam Darnold renaissance is happening. He's 5th in passer rating. He's 5th in QBR. And he's not just dinking and dunking all the time. Threw that perfect deep ball to Justin Jefferson last week for that, 97-yard touchdown. Crazy, right? throwing bombs to Justin Jefferson. Sam Darnold is third in the NFL in yards per pass attempt, 9.5 yards per attempt. So this isn't the dink and dunk. And it's not Sam Darnold just throwing to wide open receivers because Kevin O'Connell's good at what he does. There's a stat that's called the completion percentage over expected, which takes a quarterback's completion percentage that you would expect, right? So if it's a wide open throw, you expect the quarterback to make that throw, to hit that target. So when you look at the completion percentage over expected, Sam Darnold is 6th in the league. So we're talking some tight window throws. We're talking tough throws. Sam Darnold, watch out. Minnesota off to a great start. Should be a very interesting game coming up against Houston. And I'd also say this about Sam Darnold. He's doing all of that. I just gave you the numbers, right? 5th in passer rating, 5th in QBR, 3rd in yards per attempt, 6th in completion percentage over expectation. Darnold is doing all of that, facing the 12th highest pressure rate in the NFL. Sam Darnold has been pressured on 1/3 of his dropbacks. So it's not like he's getting a clean pocket all the time, and the Minnesota offensive line is just unbelievably good. So shout out to Sam Darnold. Shout out to the Minnesota Vikings on their 2-0 start. Some great stuff. Some great stuff. All right, before I get to story number 3, don't forget to give us that thumbs up, more likes, more eyeballs. Let's create engagement, build this community. We do it by doing a few things here. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. You just click that thumbs up on YouTube. You help us out by doing that. You throw a comment in, maybe about football, maybe about what you're drinking. I'm drinking a Gino from Skyrock Brewery. What are you drinking tonight? Let me know. Courtney Harris waving hello. Hello, Courtney. Nice to see you. Glad that you joined the party tonight on this Thursday. Always appreciated. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All right, story number 3. The Baltimore Ravens. What's going on in Baltimore? 0-2. They play in Dallas on Sunday. That's an intriguing game. Dallas just got their nipples ripped off by the New Orleans Saints in Dallas last week. Now they come back. They're hosting the Ravens. The Ravens, 0-2, going to be desperate for a win on the road. Dallas, desperate to prove to people that last week was a flash in the pan, that's not going to happen. Not a sign of bigger issues to come. So the Ravens-Cowboys game is going to be one of the most interesting games of the weekend. But Baltimore, they had a bad loss last week. Home game against the Raiders. Home game against the Raiders, and the Ravens had extra rest. They played on Thursday night to kick the season off against Kansas City. They had the mini bye week, quote unquote. So they had extra time to get ready for Dallas. Not for Dallas, for Vegas. Dallas is this week. So you had extra time to get ready for the Raiders. You're at home and you lose. You lose that football game. Now here's the bad news for the Ravens. Since the playoffs expanded in the NFL in 2020, there have been 32 teams that have started the season at 0-2. Only 2 of those 32 teams made the playoffs. That is a daunting task for John Harbaugh and the Ravens. So what's the problem with the Ravens? I did some homework this week. Their offensive line has been inconsistent. Some breakdowns up front. Revamped the offensive line. Multiple new guys up there. It's not going consistently smooth for them. Lamar Jackson helps because he has the ability to escape, but it hasn't gone great for that offensive line. They've had some inconsistencies. Speaking of Lamar Jackson has been nowhere near, and I mean nowhere near, MVP level. He has not played like you would expect him to play. He has not looked as good as you would anticipate him looking. Let's go through some of it. Lamar Jackson is 18th in the NFL in passer rating. The completion percentage over expected that I just shared with you about Sam Darnold, right? Sam Darnold was, 6th? Sam Darnold is 6th in completion percentage over expected. Lamar Jackson is 23rd. So he's giving you less than what you would expect. His receivers have been more open than you would think. So Lamar Jackson is not playing great football just yet. And it's, what's truly alarming, by the way, about Lamar Jackson's CPOE, the completion percentage over expected. What's truly alarming about that number from Lamar, the Ravens, they have the second lowest tight window percentage in the NFL, which means most of the time when Lamar Jackson is dropping back, targeting a receiver, that receiver's been open. Lamar Jackson has faced the second fewest tight windows in the league. And his completion percentage over expected is 23rd. Imagine how bad his completion percentage over expected would be if he was having to throw more tight window throws. That's a warning shot. That's a concern. Jackson's got to play better from the pocket. He's got to be more accurate from the pocket. The play callers are doing enough. The receivers are doing enough to get open. And Lamar's not finishing the job. Now, there are some other issues. Nobody on that team other than Zay Flowers really scares you at wide receiver, right? Rashad Bateman's been mostly a swing and a miss. So, you're not super scared of that guy. Nelson Aguilar is Nelson Aguilar. So wide receiver wise, the only dude, if you're preparing for this football team, the only guy that concerns you at wide receiver consistently is Zay Flowers. You take Flowers out of the game, what do you got? Mark Andrews is a good tight end, really good tight end. I wouldn't call him explosive. Would you call him explosive? I wouldn't. You got Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's 30 years old. A lot of wear and tear. Hasn't been bad early on, but can you expect Derrick Henry to be King Henry by week 12, week 13? Risky. So there's some questions on the offense, and your all-world quarterback is not playing all-world. Defensively, Ravens have some issues. They're 27th in pressure rate. They're not getting after the quarterback. They're not creating enough pressure defensively. They've given up the 7th highest yards per pass in the league, so they're giving up some chunk plays. Cornerbacks are allowing too much separation. Defensive backs have been inconsistent for Baltimore. And also, Justin Tucker, who's been captain reliable and captain dependability, all of a sudden, last couple of years, Justin Tucker can't make a field goal past 50 yards. And we all watched Justin Tucker throughout his NFL career. That dude would make long kicks look easier than anybody else in the league. Tucker's been struggling from 50 plus. He's 0 for 2 this year from 50 or more. The last 2 years, he's 1 for 7 from 50 yards or more. So there's some issues in Baltimore. Drinking a Gino from Skyrock Brewery in Attleboro, Massachusetts. Whatever you're drinking, alcohol or non-alcohol, join me. Raise up the glass. Cheers. Slancha. Prost. Whatever you say in whatever language. Let's do it right now. Have a sip as we get to story number 2. Story number 2. We go to the West Coast. By the way, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as you watch. San Francisco, fragile. Looking a little fragile. Now, they play at the Rams this week. The Rams are as fragile as the Niners. I have no idea who is actually going to be out on the football field for either of those two teams this weekend. But let's look at San Francisco. Fragile. Christmas story shout out. I had concerns about San Francisco before the year kicked off. And I talked about those concerns. Some people might have thought I was crazy or overstating things. I didn't think I was overstating. I had major concerns about Run CMC and the calf injury. He didn't do much of anything during preseason, camp season. He did nothing. And the Niners were trying to act like this thing didn't even exist. Like, calf injury? What calf? Oh, he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. He'll be okay. Then all of a sudden, we find out in week 1, oh, McCaffrey's not going to play because of the calf. Then all of a sudden, the calf became an Achilles. And it went from, well, he's going to miss game 1, he might miss game 2, to being put on IR. I wouldn't feel great about this if I was a Niners fan. I wouldn't feel confident about Christian McCaffrey. Dealing with an Achilles, he's had a lot of usage, especially since his trade to San Francisco. He has played a lot of football. He's been asked to do a lot. He's 28 years old. That's a young man, but not so much in football, not so much when you're a running back, and not so much when you've been used as much as McCaffrey's been used. So I've got concerns. I've got concerns about Christian McCaffrey and that Achilles. I was also concerned about Deebo Samuel, and I brought this up before the season. Deebo plays very physical, and he's dealt with a number of injuries. He's played through a lot of injuries. But when does that start catching up to you? We find out this week that Deebo is going to miss a few games with a calf. Sound familiar? Now, I know Kyle Shanahan came out this week and said, it's not that big of a deal. It's not the same thing as Christian McCaffrey. It's not really going to bother the Achilles. I've always said this, no matter what we're talking about, no matter what sport we're talking about, Achilles, calf, Achilles, right? Calf injuries and hamstring injuries scare the hell out of me. They're very difficult to get better quickly. And when you have a calf injury or a hamstring injury, a lot of times those injuries linger. And a lot of times those injuries become worse. So, yeah, I got concerns. If I'm a Niners fan, I got concerns about Run CMC, that calf/Achilles. I've got concerns now that Deebo pops up and is going to miss a few weeks because of a calf injury. Oh, and by the way, George Kittle. George Kittle missed practice today. Sounds like he's going to be out. I mean, this is a mess. And guess what George Kittle's dealing with? A hamstring. So you've got CMC with an Achilles. You've got Deebo with a calf. You've got Kittle with a hamstring. Your three best players outside of Brandon Ayuk. And so I don't know when these guys are going to be back. This has got to be a major concern for Samson. And this is my issue when I talked about the Niners, my concern about the Niners. You know, when you're looking at CMC, you're looking at Deebo, you're looking at Kittle, they're getting older. They've played a lot of football. They all play physical. They've had to do a lot in their NFL career. When would that catch up? And I see 618 popping in. Jordan Mason looking good. Where are my entertainers? Says that Mason looks like Ramondre. I like Jordan Mason a lot, and I ain't joking here. I did radio in Sacramento for a year and a half or so, okay? When I was out in Sacramento, San Francisco brought Jordan Mason in. And if I could play the tapes for you, old school style, play the tapes, I would play the audio for you from my shows in Sacramento talking about the Niners, saying that the Niners should be playing Jordan Mason a little bit more to help keep McCaffrey's usage down. Kyle Shanahan apparently didn't listen to the show. And so now you fast forward, you got Mason, who does look good, and I do think he's a good back. But you got him in there running because you've now lost McCaffrey for who knows how long. So McCaffrey hurt, Deebo hurt, Kittle now hurt. Oh, and Brandon Ayuk is still rusty because of his forever holdout. So he's not playing as well as you would expect him to. Ricky Pearsall's out because he got shot. I mean, it almost sounds like a movie. Almost sounds like a movie. Your rookie receiver got shot after he got hurt with his shoulder. Literally got shot. Now you're dealing with Brandon Ayuk, who held out. He can't get back. He doesn't look the same. I think he'll eventually get there, but when is that going to be? Deebo, Kittle, and CMC are out with injuries. I'll tell you what, we're going to learn a lot about Brock Purdy. Look, I remember Brock Purdy, and I remember Brock Purdy last year when Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel were out. Brock Purdy had a 2 or 3 game stretch that was putrid. So Purdy's in line to get a big contract. He's got to prove it now. He's got to prove it now. Can you elevate the other guys? Tough. Very tough with all these guys out. But we will find out about Brock Purdy and his ability to elevate the rest of the team when you don't have CMC or Deebo or Kittle or Pearsall. So we'll see if they can get healthy. And if they can get healthy, we'll see if they can stay healthy. A $49.99 super chat from Terry Grant, a super chat for William, who was at the game. He sees the Patriots win a great game tonight. All right. So, Teresa, Terry, thank you so much for the $49.99 super chat. It is very much appreciated. I will drink to that. I should almost drink the whole beer here. I got about, a half a beer left. I should drink it all. But thank you. Thank you so much, Terry. Your generosity speaks volumes. Your support and contributions to the show are huge to me. You're one of the main reasons I still have the capability of doing this. It means a ton to me when you send the super chats, no matter how much it is. But Terry, with the $50 super chat especially, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If not for me, do it for Terry. William, who was at the game, thank you so much, Terry, for your kind words. I will bring back a win. We're going to hold you to that, William. We're going to hold you to that. Can you bring back a win? Don't promise something that you can't pull through with. We're looking at you. We're looking at you. Ryan Lee, 33rd birthday. Happy 33rd birthday to you, Ryan. Happy birthday, buddy. Hopefully you see a win. Dime Pats 12 jumps in. What up, Nick? Keep up the great work. You're killing it. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Uh-oh. Maryland's feeling froggy on a Thursday night with the Patriots Jets. On our second, Sam Adams. Catch up, Nick. I'm not going to be able to catch up before the Patriots game. I'll promise you that. I'm talking too much. But I appreciate you, Maryland. All right, let's get to the last story because I know we got Patriots Jets coming up in about a half hour or so. And tonight, obviously, two AFC East teams. And I want to end tonight's podcast on an AFC East story. And, of course, I'm talking about Tua Tagovailoa. Now, he goes down last Thursday. And I think all of us saw it, right? We all saw the fencing position that he was in. It's the second time we've seen Tua in that fencing position. That means a traumatic injury. That means the brain has been rocked. Now, I've watched a lot of football. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the fencing position on the field. I can tell you I've seen it twice with Tua. And that is obviously concerning. It was frightening to watch. And it was even more frightening to watch understanding Tua's history. His history is no joke. Ankle injury and stuff like that. Yeah, I get it. He had a hip injury, had surgery before he got drafted. We all know the story. Those injuries to the ankle, to the hip, they're serious injuries, and you never want anybody injured in any kind of way. But when we're talking about brain injuries and we're talking about watching the same person with the fencing position on the field, on his back, frightening, scary. And Tua's not a big guy. We talked about that when he was getting drafted. Tagovailoa is not a big dude. He doesn't have a big frame. He's not muscular. There were, stories about Tua in the offseason, right? Pretty sure. I got to look this up. But weren't there like big stories about his weight loss? There were all sorts of stories about his weight loss because I remember talking about him losing weight and his history. And, from June to his weight loss becomes a major talking point. So he's not a big guy to begin with. Then he lost weight. And I remember saying that he's not the biggest guy. And with his history and him losing weight, I was concerned. I was concerned about his frame getting even smaller. Now, it's not why he got injured the other night. He got injured because he led with his head, which is a reminder, again, you got to slide. And I don't know how he can't slide given what he's gone through. Heat of the moment, right? Heat of the moment, what you do. So with that history, with his size, and he's not a great athlete. I mean, he's a good enough athlete to get to the NFL, but you know what I mean. He's not an elite athlete. He's not running away from people with speed and ability like Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray or Jaden Daniels at times, who he also doesn't get down. So you got Tua, who is not big, not super athletic, pocket passer with an injury history and a concussion history, who we've now seen in the fencing position not once but twice in his young NFL career. That's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. And so now we know that Tua is on the IR. The Dolphins placed him on IR. And we've heard from reports that Tua wants to continue. It's his decision. I'm not going to tell the young man, how to live his life. It's his decision. And he's going to make that decision. And I understand that it's tough to leave what you love and what you know. And football is what Tua knows. And he's worked his entire life to get to the NFL. And he just signed that big contract with guaranteed money. And it's got to be very, very difficult to think about leaving your dream job and what you've wanted to do and what you've worked your entire life to get to. You're in your 20s. He's in his 20s. It's got to be a very, very difficult, challenging decision for Tua Tagovailoa. But I'll tell you how I feel. I do not want him playing football. I do not want to see Tua on a field ever again. Maybe as a coach, but I do. And I know it might be selfish of me. Again, it's not my decision to make, but as a football fan, I do not want to see Tua on the field ever again. Next time, the fencing position might not be the only concern. Next time, things could be worse. And as I just mentioned, this young man's in his 20s. He hopefully has a very long life to live. And I don't want him, by the time he gets into his 40s, realizing that he can't remember things, that he can't function at a high level mentally. He's not cognizant about many things because of the injuries, because he decided to go back multiple times. I don't want him to live that life. And none of us can predict the future. None of us. Absolutely none of us can predict what's going to happen in the future. But obviously, there's a big risk. The more head injuries you get, the more times we see him doing that on the field, I do not want him playing. And I don't know how many doctors he's going to go see. I don't know how many doctors. I don't know which doctors are going to be involved. But I hope the doctors and everybody, they do the right thing by Tua. I do not want to see that young man back on a football field. And I know it's his love, and I know it's what he wants to do, but you got to the NFL. You were drafted in the top 5 in the draft, right? He was 5th overall, I believe. So drafted, in the top 5 of an NFL draft. You made it to your second contract, that big guaranteed money. You proved a lot, man. And I would not want to see him continue. And again, I understand it could be selfish of me. All right. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. We need to continue to build this community, build the energy with this podcast. It's Crafts and Kickoffs. We drink beer. We drink beverages. We talk football every Thursday night, 7 Eastern. Tonight, Gino from Skyrock Brewery. Take another drink for all of you. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for stopping by at the party. We will be back next week, Thursday at 7 p.m. Enjoy week 3 of the NFL season. I am Nick Cattles.